All right. All right. So this is not a cooking channel. This is just how I do things. And several days ago, someone asked me, do I know how to cook? I said, no, I don't. They said, yeah, but you talk a lot about how you can cook. Well, here's what's going to happen. I could show you how this fat man learned how to cook when he went to culinary school, became a chef, because everybody has their own way of cooking. So if you ever invite me to your house, I want to see how you start, which is how you prep your meal, how you get started, what you do to it, and so forth. Because at the end of the day, what you think is good for you may not be good for someone else. So this is not to shy anybody else from cooking or focus on someone else's style of cooking. This is just my style of cooking. And all I'm doing is showing you guys what I do when I cook in my kitchen, because at the end of the day, as they say, everything is content, right? So what I tend to do is this. I learned many years ago, like the bad habit, of course, is always have a pair of gloves on, because you never know what you have to get involved in. You have to switch out real quick. You always want to have your hands clean. So I turned around and kept gloves on ever since. Now, if you invite me over to your house and you cooking, you better put some gloves on, because I don't know where your hands were, and I sure as hell don't know what you was touching. So don't invite me to your house if you don't have no gloves on to eat, because I'm not going to eat. And you don't have to worry about being offended, because I'm telling you now, don't invite me to your house if you don't have no gloves on, because I'm not going to eat the food if I don't see you prepping it. And it's real simple. So several weeks ago, someone had said to me, oh, you know what? I'm going to challenge you to cook. I said, all right, cool. Let's see what you got. And of course, still to this day, I have not seen them do anything. So this is me saying to that person, or those three people rather, I'm ready. Let's see what you got. Let's see how you cook. Because you claim you know how to cook, but I ain't see you cook. I don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to show you guys what I do. And the reason why I do this is because it tends to make things a whole lot easier to clean up, make it nice, make it tasteful, and so forth. Right? Now, many of you are probably saying, well, you ain't washing your stuff. Wrong. I've already washed it beforehand. Because, of course, you have to wash everything, because you don't know what pesticides are on your fruits, on your meats. You don't know what's what. So it's best to wash it beforehand. So everything I do is wash beforehand. You don't need to see me washing it, because, of course, you should already have it washed, especially if you invite somebody over. Have it already washed. This way, when they're watching you, they can have a little more understanding and security in knowing that you're looking out for them. And again, you invite me over, you better make sure that I see some gloves in that kitchen. Don't cook it before I get there. Cook it while I'm there. This way I don't have to embarrass you, because I will embarrass you. Just the way I do things. Some people turn around and cook and say, oh, I cook the best because I use, a certain style of seasoning or a certain seasoning. There's no true one seasoning that a person can utilize to make the food good. It really comes down to your mix of what you've done. So as you saw, I prep my onions, and I get my onions and my peppers ready because they go into a pan to be sauteed so that they can have somewhat of a flavor on what I do. Now, some of you say, oh, you need to have a different cutting board for everything you have. Well, that only applies if you actually work in the kitchen or you have a restaurant. You should have a different cutting board for everything. Here in your own home, the old saying is, what you do at home, you should not do it at a restaurant or at a place of business because it's not correct. This is also true. I'm home, so I'm showing you how a fat man cooks because, of course, this fat man likes to eat. So I must actually make sure that I cook so that I can eat. So I make my own mix, not make, but I create my own rather, with a blend of several different spices, okay? And I have a trick behind a lot of what I do. And some people are kind of surprised on what I utilize for an additional seasoning. So as you see, I have my chicken up. And this is a trick that I learned many years ago, which is, I'm losing an aluminum pan because, of course, I'm a little lazy. I got a dishwasher, but I don't want to be dealing with washing a Pyrex pan. Plus, I have something else that I want to make as well that's going to go in the Pyrex pan. So I'm using this one for my chicken because I have other plans with another meat that I'm doing for later on in a Pyrex pan. Or if some of y'all are saying you shouldn't be using a aluminum pan, I'm gonna use it. It's here in the house, so I'm gonna use it. So many years ago, we taught a lot of people how to use butter, or not margarine, plain butter, to give it that extra flavoring. Because what a lot of you meant or forgot when you started cooking is, if you put it in a pan, what's at the bottom of the pan sometimes tends to stay stuck. So when it stays stuck to the pan, you want to make sure that it doesn't stay stuck and it comes out very nicely, right? And of course, the other thing about that habit I have is using gloves all the time, is because I have a bad habit that when I'm doing things, I always in the kitchen always have gloves because I'm always touching and I'm always switching out ideas, and I don't want to be touching. Instead of washing my hands every 5 seconds, I'll just take off a pair of gloves and put on a new pair. It's a whole lot easier. So as you saw, put my pan down, got it nice and buttered. Because why? Because just like your body, the heat comes from the inside out. And I base my pan, as you can see, with my seasonings that I've created in the essence of utilizing different variations of seasonings, because I think I've kind of mastered my own seasoning to outweigh anything that's bought on the shelf. So it's like a combination of a bunch of things. I'm going to use that again. And then, of course, I'm not going to show it to you, but you're going to see it being poured on. And I'll let you know what this is, because, of course, a lot of times a marinade can be utilized or should be utilized when you're making meat, because you want that marinade, exactly what it sounds like, the marinade, to marinate your meats. So it really doesn't matter. Mine, that I like to use, is actually a real simple salad dressing. Why? Because the salad dressing has additional seasonings in it, and being that it has been inside the bottle of its own marinade, it's marinating within itself. So as it marinates with that seasoning, it's a good thing. So one of the things I like to do with my chicken, while I move this out of the way here, is I like to make sure that my chicken, I don't like to have the skin around it, right? So besides peeling it off, I like to make sure that third layer of skin or that protective skin that even us humans have. So if you actually think you can't eat a human being, think about it 3 times if you're starving. I tend to do my very best to get it off, right? Because at the end of the day, I like the meat to fall off the bone. I like that when I bite into my chicken, I don't have anything to hold back from the meat, the skin, none of that stuff. So I make sure it all comes off the best way possible because I don't want it in my way. I tend to cut the tendon as well because it allows the meat of the chicken to actually come off a little more easier when, of course, you're slow baking it, which allows it to, in layman's terms, cook very slow. And it allows the chicken to cook through and through. So even as you think that turning up the heat makes it cook faster, no. Some of you, even at one time, I had this done a lot, back in the day, people were complaining that the chicken had a little pinkness in it. And I was explaining to them that the pinkness just means that it's cooking and or cooked already. Because as long as the chicken gets to 165 degrees, it's cooked. So there's no need to panic that it's at that temperature. So they tend to get surprised when they hear me say it's cooked. So never have to worry about that. So the people that challenge me to cook, this is mainly for them. Because again, I said, you challenge me to a cook-off, I want to see what we call in the culinary field your mise en place. I want to see what you do before you start cooking. I need to see how you get everything ready. And then, and only then, would I say you do know what you're doing if you're going to cook for somebody else. And I'm not talking about your family members, because your family members are not going to tell you the truth about if the food is not good. They're going to smile and they're just going to be like, okay, sure, it's good. Because either A, they're hungry, or hell, they just want a free meal. So if I turn around and I invite you to eat, you can best believe you're going to see the whole process down to when I start cooking, as you see me now, prepping it. Because, of course, the prepping is the biggest key behind good food. That's why, people in the restaurant field, they know that you're paying a lot of money for the meal because of the time it takes to get the meal ready. And some people complain, but they don't know the tedious work behind it. And of course, if you're in the field of culinary, things tend to get much more easier, much more faster. You cut corners. That's why I always say when you're cooking for other people, you cannot cut corners. Because if you cut a corner, they get sick. Next thing you know, your profit's down the drain because you got sued. And that's what tends to happen. That's one of the reasons why a lot of restaurants and places that have food do not give away their food anymore. Even to the homeless, they won't give the food away. Because they've realized that people are just, I want to say, ungrateful to the point of saying that they're going to just literally sue you because you got a business, you're cooking food, and they don't want to see you successful, and they want a little bit of the money or a lot of the money that you have. So that's why they turn around and they sue you. So that's why a lot of places, a lot of major companies, a lot of major places, they don't give out food anymore because of that same reason. They don't want to go through all the headaches. They prefer to throw it out. That's why a lot of people now, believe it or not, they love to dumpster dive. And dumpster diving is when people go around to all these businesses that have restaurants in the back, or in the front rather, and they have these large trash receptacles in the back of the building. People go inside those dumpsters, fully clothed, and they look for everything that the restaurant has thrown out. Sometimes you, or those people rather, they come across good stuff that has not expired. Just because the restaurant doesn't want it anymore, they throw it out. And what they do is they'll take it back home and they'll feed their families. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Because again, back in the day, it was all right to share your meals with the locals or people that needed to eat. Now, unfortunately, the way people are, people don't like doing that no more, and it's just a bad thing. So today's little segment is because, as I mentioned, the Fat Chancellor Show is going to go through a very, very, very heavy revamp. And it's not because of what has transitioned. It's more because I'm realizing people do not like happiness. They prefer, rather many people prefer to watch the misery of another before realizing what they're going through, and or have some kind of comfort in knowing that what they're going through is not as bad as what they see someone else go through. Call it selfish if you wish, call it crazy if you wish, call it odd. I'm just going to say, well, you know what? People are people. Nothing you can do about that. That's just the way they are. So here on the Fat Chancellor Show today is basically showing you guys how I, being a fat man that loves to eat, how I tend to prep my chicken, prep my meals. And 99% of the time, this is what I'm doing. I'm literally gloves on, put my meal together, figuring out what I'm going to eat. Just to, of course, me and the queen and the fur babies, we all need to eat. So I make sure that they eat. Yes, and the fur babies, for those that believe fur babies cannot eat human food, that's a lie. It all comes down to how much you give them and how you give it to them. Many people want to give them raw meat. I totally disagree with giving a fur baby raw meat, because the fur baby now gets accustomed to eating raw meat. And the day that that fur baby doesn't have any meat and it sees you walk through the door, guess what it's going to eat? We've seen it. I've seen it time and time, and I'm sure many of you have heard it time and time again, and how owners of these fur babies wind up being mauled, and they don't know why. And it's usually because they got them accustomed to eating raw meat and the taste of blood. And just like any animal, you give it what it naturally looks for. It doesn't want what you want to give it to them. So here in this home, our fur babies eat both their regular dog food, whether it's dry kibble or wet dog food. And the majority of the time, it's going to be human cooked food, or an AKA table food. Because I think that's enough. Because at the end of the day, we got to take care of our fur babies just as they were regular babies. So as you see, I got a bad habit of changing gloves. And my queen of queens will beat the crap out of him because she says, "You're wasting gloves." But it's all right, because I'm constantly touching other things and I don't want to mess anything up when I'm touching it. So now, as you saw, this chicken is actually something different. The preparation of that is because I have to move on to the next thing that needs to be prepped and made, of course. And there, of course, as I say, always clean up after yourself. You don't need to have anything outside of what you're supposed to be having in front of you, next to you, while you're getting your next stuff ready. Meal, food, items. Always make sure you clean off the area. This way is better. Now, you guys had seen that I have my own little mix for seasoning, because I tend to have a little couple of tricks up the sleeve when it comes to seasoning. And now you're going to see why I will always wear 2 to 3 gloves at a time when I'm prepping my meals and or creating my meats or my magical pieces, because of course, almost everyone that has eaten a meal from my hands has been quite happy. And I mean that with true sincerity, because I tell them, if you lie to me, you'll never be invited to my house to ever eat again. And of course, they tell me the truth because they want to keep coming back to eat. Now, you noticed I touched the meat with my right hand, and I grabbed my seasoning and the bowl with my left hand. And I'm keeping my hand right above my hand towel so that if anything drips off my glove, it goes right onto the hand towel. Because some of you will let it drip right on top of your counter and be like, oh man, I forgot to clean that up. Or you walked away and you got tied up with something else. And next thing you know, you forgot that you done dropped or let meat juice fall on top of something. And then you're like, oh damn, I'm done. So this is what tends to happen when you don't mise en place and you don't look out what you're doing. You don't watch what you're doing. So here in the Fat-tacular show, as I mentioned, the Fat-tacular show is going to go into a very, very deep and drastic type of revamp. You might get a couple of more Fatman cooking shows. You might not. It all depends on how I'm feeling that day. You know, things haven't been going too well. And the brain has been in a whole disarray of what is supposed to be happening. So it's not too comfortable right there. So that's another thing. Cooking tends to help with what's going on in the mind. It tends to slow things down to a more understanding rate of why life is the way it is. So that's the other thing. But some of us don't understand the mental status of one's brain in understanding that there's something wrong, or they're afraid to ask the question. Sometimes it's needed to know what's going on. So with that being said, this is how I prep my meals. This, of course, is going to be a meat sauce, which of course is very simplified. You guys know what meat sauce is. Nothing really drastic about it. My chicken. I have one more step to go around my chicken to do, which of course y'all gonna watch. Probably, yes indeed, you're gonna watch, because I'm gonna do it right now. Which is basting my chicken a specific way. And as you saw, I put it inside there with all the seasoning and the marinade. And I'll just go ahead and mix all that goodness, wrap it all around. Because why? Because at the end of the day, it's still going to sit at the bottom. And as it sits in the bottom, you can see that it's now almost like a rotisserie. Like when you're laying down in your bed and you're rolling your bed, you figure out why you're sweating so much. This is why. This is how you get it all over every single spot on the chicken. You don't have to be sprinkling it or trying to glaze it. You know, you don't have to go through all that. If you just keep it in one spot, and you just, like in your bed, you just keep flipping and flipping and flipping till all of it gets in there, gets in right spots. And of course, you're able to smell it. You're able to tell or know that it smells very, very good. This allows it to create a very good heating source, the aluminum paper, or pan rather. and it allows everything to get cooked in the, of course, the butter. Because I leave the butter in there because, of course, as you see, the butter has all the seasoning on it, which, of course, is going to marinate more as it slow cooks. And I just like to double check and make sure that all the pieces have enough seasoning on it before I actually turn around and say, okay, time for you to go in the oven. Yeah, I'll switch it around a couple of times because got to make sure it gets all over the place, you know. So I saw somebody a couple of weeks back, and they were making, they said they were making some chicken, and they challenged me to a cook-off. And I said, I accept your challenge, but you better be ready. I haven't seen them do anything like I said before. Still waiting. I was shocked to hear that one particular person does a whole lot of cooking, and I'm not going to call him out, you know, but he's close to the family. He is seen as a family member from afar, and he is a Floridian. So just in case he rewatches, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm fracking, or as he likes to call it, capping. I don't know what the hell capping is, but hey, you know, these young'uns, they have all these crazy names for things now. So now you see marinade, seasoning, all in the same pot, all in the same pan, nothing separate, all goodness. And it's just like that. Okay. So as you see, this is what it comes out to. And then of course, I'll let the Queen of Queens let y'all know how good it was. Till the next time, I just wanted to share that with y'all and share that with the ones that challenge me how to cook, or that they want to challenge me to a cook-off, whether it's barbecuing or inside the house. This is how we start to finish, from prepping to how it goes. So from here, you know, there's nothing else I can do to it. It's just going to cook itself. So after it gets cooked, then I'll show you what it looks like at the end. I'll send you a couple of pictures, or maybe I'll actually do the live so that you can see it. But that's how the Fat Man on the Fat-tacular Show preps his chicken, preps his turkey meat for his meat sauce. And from there, you can just sit back and say, damn it, I'm hungry now. But at the end of the day, I'm a fat man. I like to eat. So until the next show, catch you guys later.